Have you ever really stopped to think about the true cost of cruelty? We're about to dive into this really fascinating psychological puzzle. It's this idea that when someone harms another person, maybe for that quick flash of power or relief, they're actually, well, they're sabotaging themselves. It's a strategy that you're going to see is basically designed to fail from the start. So, that's the big question, right? How can something that's supposed to bring relief end up causing so much pain to yourself? We're going to tackle this like a psychological detective story. We'll follow the clues to figure out exactly how this act of aggression turns into a trap for the aggressor. Okay, so to get started, let's grab onto a core idea from the source material. Picture this. Every single one of us is kind of like a walking thermostat. Seriously. Just about every single thing we do, whether we're conscious of it or not, is all about trying to regulate our internal state. Our mood, our sense of calm, our overall well-being. It's pretty much the fundamental driver behind everything. And that right there brings us to what we can call the wellness paradox. I mean, if we're all hardwired to seek well-being, why on earth would anyone choose to do something like hurt someone else? Well, the source suggests it's because it looks like a shortcut. It's this quick, but, and this is the key, deeply flawed attempt to feel better or to snatch back a sense of control. But that's the paradox, isn't it? That shortcut, it never actually gets you to where you want to go. It doesn't lead to well-being. It's just a dead end. So, okay, let's start our investigation. Time to uncover the clues that show us why. All right, clue number 1. This one is found deep inside the mind of the person doing the harm. The second that act is committed, instantly, a powerful internal alarm system just goes off. And this creates an immediate, intense psychological conflict. And that alarm? Yeah, it has a name. Cognitive dissonance. You've probably felt it. It's that really uncomfortable, cringy feeling you get when what you do doesn't match up with who you think you are. It's a total mental clash, a contradiction that your brain just scrambles to try and fix. And this really illustrates that conflict perfectly. Just look at the two sides here. On one hand, you've got that core belief that most of us have, right? I'm a good, decent person. But then on the other hand, you have the cold, hard fact of your action. I just hurt someone. This isn't just some small disagreement in your head. No way. This is a full-on battle for your sense of self. And this quote, wow, it just nails the severity of it all. This isn't some abstract intellectual puzzle we're talking about. The source material really drives this home. Your actual identity is on the line. And that internal battle, it creates these deep cracks in the very foundation of your psychological well-being. Okay, let's move on to our second clue. This one is all about the emotional fallout. Because it turns out, even if someone gets a tiny moment of relief from lashing out, that relief comes with an absolutely insane price tag. The source material has a perfect metaphor for this, actually. Think of it this way. Any relief you get from hurting someone is like taking out a really expensive emotional loan. Sure, you get a little bit of cash up front, that quick hit of power or release, but the interest rates are just astronomical. And trust me, that bill always comes due. And this is pretty much exactly how that loan works. Just look at this cycle. It kicks off with some kind of pain or frustration. That leads to step 2, hurting someone else for that quick fix. But then look at step 3. That relief, it's gone in a flash, and it's followed by a huge emotional crash. And that leads to the final step, where you just start piling on this massive debt of guilt, anxiety, and stress. It's a totally vicious cycle. And that psychological bill, wow, it is severe. The evidence is crystal clear on this. People who commit acts of violence are linked with way higher rates of really serious psychological problems. We're talking depression, chronic anxiety, even PTSD, which is something a lot of people only think victims experience. The data just shows again and again, the harm always comes back to haunt the one who caused it. All right, on to our third and final clue. This one zooms out a bit. We're moving beyond just the person's own mind and looking at their social and moral world. Because this is where we really see how hurting others doesn't just fracture your internal peace, it fractures your very place in the world. Look, we're social creatures, right? Our well-being is completely tied up in our connections with other people. So when you hurt someone, you're not just attacking them. What the research shows is that you're actually cutting your own connections to your community. You are, quite literally, sawing off the very branch you're sitting on. And this leads us to a really powerful concept called moral injury. Now, this isn't about fear or trauma in the typical sense. It's different. It's a deep wound to your character, and it happens when you violate your own core moral code. It's the feeling that you've broken something essential inside of yourself. And this quote just captures the essence of it perfectly. After the act is done, it's not fear that sticks around. It's this haunting realization that you fractured something inside yourself, something you thought was unbreakable. Now that is a profound and very, very lasting wound. So let's put all these clues together. Think of it like a cost-benefit analysis. On the left, you've got the so-called gains, a quick hit of relief, a fleeting sense of being in control. But then you look to the right, at the actual long-term costs, and they are absolutely devastating. We're talking chronic stress, social isolation, and deep, lasting damage to your identity. It's just a terrible deal. And this right here brings us to the big reveal, the solution to our mystery. Malevolence isn't just a morally bad choice. It's a psychologically terrible strategy. It's a system that's literally designed to fail. It promises to make you feel better, but all it does is eat away at the very foundations of your well-being from the inside out. So if this strategy is so destructive, is there any way back? Is there a path forward? Well, the source material says yes, there is. And it actually outlines a way to restore that internal coherence, to heal this self-inflicted wound. Here's the key insight, and it's a big one. If hurting someone else is really a form of self-harm, then just punishing the act, well, that doesn't heal the underlying wound. The whole focus has to shift. It has to move from punishment to repair. And not just repair for the victim, but for the perpetrator's own fractured self, too. And this process, this moral repair, it involves 3 really critical steps. First up is recognition. That means honestly and fully accepting the harm you've caused. No excuses. Then comes reparation, taking real, meaningful action to try and make things right with the person you hurt. And finally, prevention. This is where you truly, deeply internalize the lesson that hurting other people is, in the end, a profound act of self-sabotage.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. If we actually accept this idea that harming others is a form of self-harm, how should that change our entire view of justice, of rehabilitation, of prevention? It really challenges us to rethink, well, everything. And that certainly gives us a lot to chew on.